Howdy, folks. Uh, we're fixing to do another story time. It's story time number 80, 80. Ooh, Lordy. This feller can talk. It's a little windy out here, kind of in the courtyard, so hopefully it's not going to disrupt events of this story. What I'm here to talk to you about is I watched a video last night. I'm not going to at this channel or anything. I'm just telling you I definitely do not like to ride on the coattails of another big famous channel. But I'm telling you the truth. So I will mention their name because it's the truth, and it'd be really good for you to go over. I'm not saying good for you, but uh, you'll understand if you go view uh, this channel. So Arms Family Homestead, they have a secondary channel called Do Your Best or Doing Your Best, or I think it's called Do Your Best, and it's primarily the wife, DJ. So she was talking about one of their family pets that is has severe medical problems and is probably not going to be around too much longer. So once again, I'm not trying to tag onto their coattails, or definitely not the case. But it made me think about the three beautiful dogs I've had in my life. So this story time is dedicated to the three canines I've had in my life that definitely made a huge, huge impact on me. Um, so this, you consider this like a another bonus three-part story, so to speak. Uh, my first dog. This is so funny. Um, if you listen to me talk in the past about a trooper Pedden, Ray Pedden, he did the Ironman competition in Hawaii. He swam the Mediterranean Channel. He's done a lot of amazing things, and he was a canine handler in the Delaware State Police, and he had a white German Shepherd named Teddy. Teddy was a big boy. He was probably 120 pounds or so. He was big. Plus, he was fluffy, so he was very, very intimidating, very well trained, excellent canine officer. Teddy was. So they Trooper Pedden bred with one of the neighbors' German Shepherd. So they had puppies and what have you, and we got talking, and I'll never forget. I was real young. I was like 20 or 20. I think I was like 20 years old, 21 years old, and my mom and we had finally moved into a house. We had been apartment dwellers our entire life uh, due to our economic status. So it was very, very exciting for me to know that, like, wow, now we can finally have a dog. So get talking to Trooper Pedden, and he's telling me there's this letter that's going to become available in a week or two, and so I said, look, I want one, and I said, but I want a white one. He says, I forget how they went exactly, but basically there was only like two left, two females or whatever. I said, no problem. Just I know the bloodline. I know it's going to be a good dog. So I said, hook me up. So I get hooked up. Little tiny white fluffy white German Shepherd. Looked like this. I'm really dating myself right now. But I remember growing up, there was I forget what the name of the show was, but there was a lioness that was called Elsa. I forget what the show was. It was like I remember there was a lady host and a female host, whatever. But she did a lot with lions and stuff like that. But so it had to do with this cub named Elsa. So when I saw my puppy, I decided I'm going to name it after Elsa. But me having a mental, brain fart, I named her Elsie. And my mom loved the name and everything. And come to find out, Elsie's like a cow. But she was, once I realized my faux pas, that it was supposed to have been Elsa, not Elsie, she was already responding to Elsie. So I just left it as it was. And she was a beautiful dog. Oh my gosh, she was so smart. Um, but it was so funny. I told my mom, I said, "Look, we're getting." She's like, "No, you're not. If you get a dog, you're out on the street." I was like, "No, we're getting a dog, and everything's gonna be fine." You're like, "No, you're not." I was like, "Look, I'm telling you, it's not up for discussion. We're getting a dog." And I was kind of like testing the boundaries, so to speak. And so I bring Elsie home, and she's an ornery little critter. She peeing and pooping and chewing things like little puppies do, and so you have to gradually break them of their habits. Um, but she was a little bit stubborn, kind of like me. But I love that dog. She was so special. So I talked to I was really close with all the state police canine handlers. I'm like, hey, I want this dog. I know uh, state police, Delaware State Police at that time, I think it's still probably the same. They would only use male dogs because they're they can be more aggressive and more independent away from the handler. So that's really necessary if you're tracking a suspect or something like that. The females want to be more protective of the handler. I hope that makes sense. That was the mentality back then that I was told. So so I talked to all these canine friends of mine. I was like, man, I do want my dog to be trained. Even though she's a female, I said, so I was teaching her to how to track a scent in the backyard. Like you get like a rag or socks, whatever, you tie it up, and then the way that the state police was doing it at the time was, go find your fetching, go find the fetching, and they would start winding with their nose and then try and find it. They learn to get that scent, and then they can do that. So I worked really hard with her, and then I talked to them about how to get your dog to be aggressive. And this part may not be considered appropriate. At that time it was. But basically, you tie off your dog on a short leash, and you kind of like you kind of work them a little bit. You agitate them to be aggressive, and then you're talking to the dog while you're doing that. So they're learning certain commands while they're aggressive, and the more aggressive they become, you're kind of like rewarding them for their aggression under certain commands. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm trying to be politically correct here. And so Elsie was an amazing, amazing female dog. I bought a brand new Toyota SR5 pickup. It was a beautiful red pickup truck. I put a cap on it. I don't know if people know what a boot is, but it goes around the sliding window of the cab of the pickup, and the cap of it kind of protects it, like for ventilation or rain or whatever. It's like an inflatable type device, whatever you want to call it. So I took Elsie with me everywhere. I love that dog. She would always rest her head on my right shoulder as I'm driving, and she knew I always went to Dunkin' Donuts. You know, go figure. Somebody in law enforcement stops at Dunkin' Donuts, but she recognized. She was so visually aware and so intuitive that it, like, I would always stop and get a cup of coffee and then go get her like 3 Dunkin' Donuts munchkins and feed her, and she just loved that, right? So like, I'm looking at the time span. I think I'm on, I think I'll be okay on time, but this phone won't let me do more than like 32 minutes. But so she went to work. I'd work long night shifts. She would go to work with me. She would stay in the truck. I had like an AstroTurf, like a real nice high quality AstroTurf bedding in the truck. It was like all custom formed around, so she always had water. She always had food. Then I would get up every hour or two, take her for a walk, when I was working on shift, and just let her, and I'd bring her in. Everybody knew this dog. Everywhere I went, everybody knew the dog. Like, we were inseparable. Well, it was just unbelievable. I loved Elsie. And it was just, and it's so funny. Like, I look back over life and time, and the happiest times of my life were when I had a canine involved in my life, because they give you love unconditionally. They're just amazing creatures. It's like it's just the loyalty is, like, I've always said in the past, people should be more like dogs. Like let's say, I'm going to use an off the wall example. Like, your dog urinated on the tile floor in the morning, and you're trying to, like, let them know that's not okay and everything. They're mad. They're like sulky and everything. You come home 8 hours later, and they're just like, they're jumping on you. They're kissing you, loving you. People need to be more like dogs. Trust me, I do believe that. So we had her for a long time. My mom fought it for a long time, and then finally she just could not resist the love. Because my mom would always talk to Elsie in French. I always talked to Elsie in English. So Elsie was basically like a bilingual German Shepherd. Go figure that. American, German dog, French literacy, so to speak. So that always cracked me up. It was like, woo, what a montage there. But Elsie was so smart. I kid you not, I spoiled that dog so bad, but she deserved it. She was such a beautiful, beautiful dog. I probably had 30 squeaky toys, and I really worked hard on making her very intelligent. I kid you not, I would put all the squeaky toys in the backyard, and I would tell her, Elsie, go get the banana. She would run around, look, and she would get the banana. She'd be squeaking it, bringing it back. I said, good girl, good girl. I'd reward her. I said, drop. She would drop. I said, go get the hamburger. She would run around, look at all the squeaky toys, get the hamburger, come back and bring it. And I'd say, good girl, drop it. Then she just loved that, right? And that, you talk about ultimate playtime, but it was like it's like a different intellectual level to know that you had a really smart dog. I'm not saying it's like because of my training. I think there's 5 dogs I've always heard that are super intelligent. One was like the giant schnauzer, German Shepherd, French Poodle. There's like 5 dogs, but I know the German Shepherd's supposed to be one of the top 5 smartest canines on the planet. So eventually, like, we did a lot together. She was a beautiful dog. Then she got around 10 or 11 years old, and she started getting neurological problems, like hip dysplasia and all that stuff. So we sent her to a lot of medical um, veterinarians and get expertise. And eventually, I had to make the tough decision to put down my best friend. That was a very traumatic day. Um, and that's all I'm going to say on that. Maybe I'll touch on this stuff a little bit later. I know I'm running out of time. Uh, so now we're going to fast forward to 1999. My father passed away August 29th, I believe it was, 1998. So there was a famous canine kennel in Maine called Snowman Kennels. They only raised white German Shepherds, championship bloodline, full AKC registered, and everything like that. Hopefully, I remember to come back and talk to you about the AKC changes over the years. But so I pre-ordered my puppy, which was later to be named Casey, 6 months ahead, even prior to her birth. And I was so confident in these people and talking to them. So finally, it's the day. She's 8 weeks old. They had it scheduled for like a Saturday or something like, I forget what day it was. I think it was a Saturday. And they had 8, look, I'm doing this, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's what I meant to do. 8 puppies in the litter. So I was scheduled as number 1. I was the furthest away. I drove from Delaware to Maine, which is probably where I went in Maine was Troy, Maine, about, here are all the birds out here. Troy, Maine was, I think it was approximately 100 miles just south of Canada. So I was pretty far up there. And that was amazing. I'm going to come back and do more individual exposés on each dog at a later time. But Casey she had her own personality. My first dog, she was too aggressive, and that was my fault. Every once in a while, she would get out, and if anybody was riding, down the street on a bicycle, she kind of did go after some people, and it always made me feel bad. But that was all my fault. I trained her I wanted her to be a real good watchdog, be very aggressive, and keep my mom safe. So now I have my second white German Shepherd named Casey, and I told myself, you know what? I'm just going to let her be a dog. I'm just going to let her be. I'm going to teach her the basics: sit, give me your paw, roll over, and give me kisses and all that stuff. But I decide, I'm just going to let her be a dog. I'm not going to make her vicious or anything like that. But it was so funny. They looked so similar, but they had two different personalities. And I can't say one was better than the other but they were so beautiful. Same thing. So I had I was working for a service company in Baltimore called EMR, Electric Motor Repair. And they would have these service vans they would sell real cheap to employees that had too many miles. And, so I kid you not, this is no BS. I ended up buying a Dodge cargo van. I forget what the model was, whatever, for $100. The thing was like always well maintained. Or I drove that thing around for like 3 or 4 years. That thing was like, it was nice. And then it had the cage behind the bucket seats, which was really cool because now I take Casey with me everywhere. It's like a rolling kennel. I just loved it. She loved it, and I was always feeding her milk bones, and same thing. We'd stop at Dunkin' Donuts and all that, fancy smancy stuff. But she was a piece of work. Just she got out of the yard one day, and this was I was living in my dad's house, and somehow she slinked under the one loose spot in the chain link fence. She was chasing a rabbit, or I don't know what the hell she was. I had to figure it was like early on a Saturday morning. So I'm looking. We lived in a big community called Salem Woods. It was at that time it was like 777 homes. So I'm driving all over trying to find her. I can't find her. Usually she was pretty good about staying local, but she must have had the whiff of something. So so I ended up calling the Humane Society, SPCA. They said no. I'm looking all over, and finally, eventually, she did get picked up by the SPCA. And this part really ticked me off. When she would sleep at night, the she had like a chain link, like choker type thing, and then her tags on there. So I would take it off at night because whenever she would like she would like scratch herself or like it would jingle. So I just would take that off just for silence at night. Just let her sleep on the floor and do her thing. And so I got up. I would always get up around 6 a.m., open a sliding patio door, let her out. She would go out in the backyard, do her business. Everything would be good. Never had a problem. She'd always try and chase this one rabbit, and she could never catch the rabbit. One day, I look out there. I let her out in the backyard. I come back in, and I go do my business real quick. I come back, and I see her, and like her butt is like facing me, and I see her like chomping down on something. I'm thinking like she's chewing on a log or something. No, she finally caught the rabbit. I was like, oh Lord. I felt bad because I honestly never thought she'd ever catch the rabbit. But so anyway, now she's picked up. She's at the pound. I got to wait. Now they're telling me I got to wait till Monday morning. Now I can't go to work on time. All this, it's just like all this stupidity. So I go there and then I have to show ID, identify the dog, tell them the whole story. And sorry about that. My neighbor's leaving. He's a little bit vocal here, loud with his vehicle. But so then I get issued two citations. One was for like a dog off a leash or something, and then her first rabies shot was like a week or two expired or something like crazy. I think like when they get the first rabies shot, it's good for like a year. Then after that, when they get the second one or something, I forget the exact. I think it's good for 5 years, but the first one's only. So like so then, believe it or not, this was a mandatory court appearance. So I'm like, all right, I go to court, I'm all spiffy and shirt and tie and trying to be respectful and do all my thing, So yeah, I get fined like $150 or something, So I'm like, man. You love your dog. I'm kind of looking at the case like, you just cost me $150. Don't be an idiot. We're both going to be in trouble, But we got over it, and then we're moving on to part 3 now. This was kind of unusual. Matter of fact, I'm going to hit pause real quick. I'll be right back. All righty, I'm back. So this one particular day, I decided I'm going to go to the stopping by the SPCA, and I decided, let me see if a lot of times when dogs pass on or whatever, the owners are real generous and they donate a lot of things to the SPCA. So I decide, I'm going to go there and I'm going to see if by chance anybody has donated a kennel. Kennel's usually like 6 by 6 by 10 or something like that. So that's what I was looking for. Not like a little dog crate, because I really, that's good to a degree. But I was looking for an outside kennel where I could put Casey out there in a shaded, like a tarp over it, keep her busy, outside during the day, keep her attentive, just let her be outside. I was going to have like a partial concrete pad and all that stuff, So, and I get there and I'm thinking that the SPCA opens at like 9 a.m. No, it opened. This was the one in Stanton, Delaware. They open at 10 a.m. So, get there and I'm there early. I'm in the van. I'm just reading the newspaper. And a lady pulls up next to me and like a little mini like SUV type thing, and she's crying. Her two or three little kids are crying. They have a dog in the back and all that stuff. And I had my window down. I was just trying to get some fresh air, and I'm literally I'm trying my best not to make eye contact with them. And I happen to look over, and the lady gets out, and she is crying up a storm. And then she looks at me. She goes, "Mister," I'm like, she's bawling. "Mister, do you want a dog?" And I get out, and I'm trying to like find it in my heart to say no. And I get out, and I'm petting this dog, and it's like I forget what the mixture was. I know it was like a miniature like collie. Looked like more the dog looked totally like a fox, but like a long-haired fox, if that makes sense. Real pointy ears and everything. And I'm petting the dog, and the entire time the dog is just like staring at me, not blinking, not moving its head, nothing, just like the dog knew something was up, and the dog was looking at me, and I'm petting the dog, and I'm trying to get the courage to say no. I can't take another dog. And then so I'm petting, and I'm like really digging deep, trying to get the courage to say no. Then I asked the lady, I said, "What's the dog's name?" She says, "Cassie." I'm like, "All right, I'll take her." Mr. Softy here. So I take the dog. I said, "I tell you what," I said, she had a break up with her boyfriend and all this stuff. So I know my time's getting short here. I'm going to try and wrap this up. But I end up going to get the dog like a day or two later. I told her, I said, "Look, I'll keep the dog and keep your dog healthy and alive. If you and your boyfriend reconcile or whatever," I said, I will give you the dog back, all the the toys, the bowls, and everything." So she was real grateful, and that never did transpire. So Cassie was super intelligent. Oh my God, she had her own personality. I had to separate Casey and Cassie because they loved each other so much. They were always roughhousing and like literally, like I'd have to tell Casey, like at my dad's house, which split level home, I'd have to have Casey upstairs and then Cassie down. I'd have to literally rotate them because they were always roughhousing. So Cassie would run down. I'd be on the couch watching the TV, and she'd be like smirking at me, right? She was always looking at me, and I could see her like grinning, like, and I was like, I see you looking at me, right? And I would never look at her. I would just talk to her, and then you'd see her like out of your peripheral. She would like start smirking, but she was so intelligent too. And so I got to wrap this up. Unfortunately, I want to talk more about each dog. But so one night I'd been working a real long schedule. I go to a local watering hole in Elkton, Maryland. I decided I was going to do something different because I didn't want to punish them for my long hours while I was training at a new job. So we had one bedroom downstairs that was unfinished bedroom, and I put them in there. And usually I would turn out the light, just it makes them mellow and just sleep. And so I decided this one night, I said, you know what, I'm gonna leave the light on, just let them just hang out, So I come home. They had been roughhousing. They both had the chain link chokers. Well, what happened was Casey must have been throwing Cassie around like roughhousing. She gets her paw stuck in the choker of Cassie, and then it gets twisted, and then Casey just went bananas and basically ended up terminating Cassie's life out of desperation. So I come in, and basically it was a big mess, and I had to get the bolt cutters to free the dogs. And so I really want to go in more detail. I know I'm running out of time. Anyway, love your dogs. Always be extra precautious on what could happen, especially the type of scenario I just described. So dogs will love you as long as you love them. They're dogs. A love from a dog is unconditional. Just remember that. Talk to you later, folks. Peace out.